The year is 1712, and the town of Abington is incorporated after being named 6 years prior. What was originally East Abington became Rockland in 1874, and South Abington became Whitman in 1875. Join me, Matt Warner, as we dig into the histories and hauntings of Old Abington.
Some energy just went right through me as I walked into this kitchen.
What the hell was that?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Histories and Hauntings with me, Matt Warner. Once again, my friend Rich is here, author, professor, and today we're going to be discussing Rockland. Now Rich, I've been meaning to ask you, are you a believer, are you a skeptic, do you fall in between when it comes to paranormal?
Well, it depends on when you ask me. If you're asking me today, that's one viewpoint. If you asked me 25 years ago, I would say I was a skeptic, but I changed one day.
Okay.
It was right around my birthday. My daughter decided she was going to take me out for lunch, and also we were going to go down to Fall River and go to one of her interests was the Lizzie Borden House, where the crime occurred, where Andrew and Abby Borden were brutally murdered. And so we took the tour. We didn't stay over, we took the tour. We did the first floor, and you and I talked before we started today about, you've been there, so
Yep.
You know the layout. You know there's a set of rooms on the first floor, and they take you through each room. They show you where Mr. Borden was slain. Then they take you upstairs, and they show you Lizzie and Emma's bedroom, and then the guest room where Mrs. Borden was slain. And then they take you to the third floor, which at that time, when the crime occurred in 1892, was like a guest bedroom, a whole bunch of storage, and a little smaller room for the domestic servant that was employed by the Borden family. And her name was Bridget Sullivan. They called her Maggie, but and she had a little small room. All I could imagine when I saw her in that room was, wow, this must be hot in the summertime, because it was at the back of the house. It was only one window in it, and it was a small room. So we were with a group of about 8 people, and we were ready to go down and conclude the tour, go down the stairs to the second floor, and then down into the kitchen, where that's where we were going to conclude our tour. So my daughter and I were at the end of the line, and we peeked in just to get a better look at this room. And somebody, a member of the housekeeping staff, was making the bed, because people stay there. It's a bed and breakfast, and They stay there overnight. So every time that they have a change of clients, they have a change of the bed linen. So the guy was freshening up the bed, and which was interesting because he was dressed in 19th century costume of somebody from the 1890s. So we all go downstairs and wind up in the kitchen, and are there any questions? And my daughter says to the guide who was taking us around, gee, that was interesting. I love the part about you have one of your housekeeping staff and they're dressed in period dress. And I found that interesting. And the guide said, you saw somebody on the third floor? She said, yeah. She said, well, what did he look like? She said, well, it was a guy. He was young. He was probably in his early 20s. He looked like college age, and he had a dress from the 1890s. You know, he had high pants and black shoes, and he had suspenders, and he was not dressed up, but he had a white shirt on. Mm-hmm. And he had like a scully cap. And she said, we don't have any men that are on our housekeeping staff, and we don't dress in period clothing. Our housekeeping staff does not dress in period clothing. You saw him. And now the other people who were in this group went, ooh, and he was no further than you and I away from me. There was no cloud. It was a real person.
Yeah.
And you know, you see, I got a glimpse. It wasn't a glimpse. And my daughter said to him, "Oh, you're getting the bed ready for the new customers tonight." He didn't say anything. He nodded and he smiled. I saw him.
Yeah. Well, that'll change you real quick, won't it?
So you might say that I was a skeptic no longer. So today we're going to talk about, after that, we're going to talk about Rockland.
All right.
Here we are at WRPS shooting this episode, and I was born in Rockland. I'm not born in Rockland, but born in South Weymouth, and I was brought to Rockland when I was about 3 days old.
Yeah.
And so I lived on Custer Street, which is off of Howard, and I was always told there's a trail, the old Indian Trail, and it runs from Webster Street and down near the BP gas station where Route 139 comes on and goes on to Webster Street. And it runs almost parallel to Liberty Street and comes out by what is now the new Rockland Police Station.
Okay.
And it was a place to be avoided. It was called the Old Indian Trail. We as kids avoided it. It looked spooky from Webster Street. And and I don't know why. I don't know if you've ever heard of that area.
No.
Nobody's heard about it recently because they've built new roads off of Liberty Street. King Philip is one of them. And that would literally cross the Indian Trail.
Okay. I was wondering if it had any ties to the rail trail that's over there, because I lived on Webster Street for about 6 years, and I would go on the rail trail because they finally finished that, but that's the only area that I know of. I don't know of any Indian Trail. I never heard of it.
There was once a bobcat spotted down there, and that was one of the things that people were nervous about, that an actual bobcat, which used to be prevalent around here, they're kind of a secretive animal, so you didn't see them, but somebody spotted one down there, and that was another reason to avoid it. So that's my first story about strange things in Rockland. I told you, on Custer Street, and then we moved to North Ave, and I went to the McKinley School. And the principal of the McKinley School, who is the person who is responsible for me getting into education, believe it or not, my 6th grade teacher, he was the principal there. His name was Bob Dunn. And he would let select ones of us go up on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was off limits at the McKinley School. That used to be Rockland High School before the Rogers Middle School became Rockland High School, and before this building became Rockland High School. And I went to all of those schools, including the Lincoln down at the bottom of school.
Yep. Yes,
Church.
I think so.
Church Street.
It's on the corner.
Right.
I think you're right with both.
Right.
Someone will
A
correct
church
us.
on one corner, and at the end of the street, a school.
Yeah.
So we would go up on the 3rd floor, and it was spooky. They had a stuffed kangaroo up there that was used in the biology department of the old Rockland High School back around in the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
My mother graduated from Rockland High School, and she didn't go to the McKinley when it was the Rockland High School. That's how old that place is. But the strange thing about it, they had other animals up there, a stuffed rabbit and everything else. And when you went up there, they were in a different place when you went up there another time, whether it be a week later or a month later. It seemed that those animals, the menagerie on the 3rd floor, seemed to move. And there was an antique shop right across the street here in the bank block, and I know somebody who worked in there, and they said that anything that represented an animal or an animated object, like a statue of somebody, they moved during the night in that antique shop. And they would go from, there was a co-op antique shop, different dealers, and they would move up, and people would come in, and things were moved around.
Really?
And it was kind of spooky. I'm going to talk about something, and I'm going to let you talk about it because you're familiar with this, and then I'll give you my story about the GAR Hall.
Oh, yes. My home base, as I
Yes.
call it.
Tell everybody a little bit about that.
So the Grand Army of the Republic Hall, built in 1899. I could go on forever about the history. It's one of those buildings as a kid, I would drive by it occasionally. It's not really on the main road, but it's just off of the main road. And as a boy, seeing cannons, you get excited.
Yes.
And I always wanted to go into that building. I said, I don't know what it is. I just want to see inside that building. And about 4 years ago now at this point, I had the opportunity. A friend of mine is a member of the Memorial Association, the Hartsuff Memorial Association. And I would pester him every time I'd see him, like, hey, get me in the building, get me in the building. And I said, I have ways to help raise funds for this place if they need it. My idea was to see if it's haunted, for one, see what's going on, and then if it was, we could run some events there and bring some enthusiasts in and go from that. They finally caved in, and they said he can come in and present himself at a meeting. So I went in, told them what I wanted to do, and they slowly but surely started letting me come in and do my thing. And I've been there for a few years now doing it, and we have a great relationship, and I'm a member of everything. And that building is so active, and it's all good energy, but it's a very active building. And you walk in and that smell of antique old wood and old things just hits you, and it's just a welcoming sense. And I could spend all day in that building. I still don't like being there alone. I've had a ton of experiences in there, and they know it. The spirits know it, and they mess with me whenever I'm in there. But they also know my intentions are pure, so we have a good relationship.
Well, I'm going to go take you back to 1947, a little bit before your
A
time.
few years before my time.
And this is where we went when we were going to go into the first grade here in Rockland. Your parent would take you up to the GAR Hall. You're right. Cannons to the left of me, cannons to the right of me. They're still there. They were there then. And we were all getting in line because we went to get our vaccination. Had to have mandatory vaccination, right shoulder. So we're all standing there, all these 5-year-olds, and one right after the other, and up the steps and into the hall. And I realize now that they wanted to keep us relatively quiet. And so the lady said to us, and I was there, and in this group, she said, if you're real quiet, maybe you can hear the guy, the ghost, playing the drums on the 3rd floor. And guess what? We were quiet. I heard him.
Really?
I thought I heard him.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a figment of my imagination, but it stuck with me all this time. And every time I go down that street and I see the cannons, what do I think about?
The drums.
The drums, exactly.
Now, have you ever been up in the attic?
I have not.
There's 2 drums.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, there's 2 very old bass drums up there,
my
like
God.
marching band type
Oh,
drums.
my God.
Oh yeah,
That's kind of creepy. I get a little bit.
I've heard piano notes played in that
Oof.
building. Yeah, it's
Boy.
it's a wonderful place.
That's an interesting place. Not too far away from there is the Strand Theater. And the Strand Theater was located almost 2 stones throw from where we are now. You could almost see it if the trees weren't there, on Union Street, across the street from the Baptist Church. And what is now Bagnell Auto Supply, at that time was a supermarket, there's a vacant lot. It's a parking lot now. And that's where the Strand Theater was located, right out to the street with a marquee. And in 1956, September 1956, there was a film going on a Friday night, and I went on my first date, took a girl to the movies at the Strand Theater. The following Monday night, Strand Theater burned to the ground. Moby Dick was playing. I was standing on the steps of the Baptist Church, watching the film go up in the air in flames. And when I went to the theater, 12 cents cost to go to the theater on Saturday matinee. We were not allowed to go in the balcony. And evidently the reason is because they thought we were going to mess it up and they'd have to clean it. So to keep us out of the balcony, they said, you don't want to go in the balcony because Walter's up there. He's the ghost that lives in the balcony. and you don't want to go upstairs. The balcony held about 250 people. The downstairs held about 570 people.
Wow.
So it was a fairly good-sized theater. And so we did not venture the balcony. I know somebody that did, and they bought popcorn, and they dumped the popcorn over, so it came down in front of the movie, and it looked like snow. And they had two ushers, the good guy and the bad guy, and the bad guy looked like Elvis, and his name was Franny Weldon, and he would literally take you by the collar and throw you out the back door, losing your 12 cents forever. But the ghost of Walter, when I was on the steps watching that, someone claimed that they saw something come out and go, not just the film, but an entity, and told me about it, and they said that must be Walter vacating the premises on the Monday night that the Strand burned to the ground.
Interesting.
And that was the end of the theater in Rockland. Rockland has, believe it or not, 9 documented cemeteries.
Wow.
More than Whitman, more than Abington, more than Whitman and Abington combined.
Yeah.
And I had thought about it, and I know some of them very well because I have family members that are buried both at Mount Pleasant on Liberty Street and at Holy Family. But I didn't realize, I knew there were other cemeteries, and I kind of documented, and there were at least 9.
Yeah.
There might be some other family plots around, and much more than the other 2 towns. And some of those cemeteries have been active with things that have happened and things like that. I want to give you one last one. And I only did research this on today. Do you know where Cushing Pond is?
Not offhand.
Okay, well, Cushing Pond is no longer there. There's a brook that goes through there, but Cushing Pond was on East Water Street. And if you went East Water Street, crossed Howard where the set of lights are, when you get down to the flashing stop signal, the four-way flashing stop signal at Liberty Street, if you were to continue straight, that would be that's still East Water Street. On your left-hand side, as you make the bend, there's like a railing there. Well, that's where Cushing Pond was. And in 1945, in April of 1945, there was a incident at that pond where a baby was in a carriage, and the babysitter was watching this child in the carriage, and she stopped to talk to somebody right next to the pond. And she put the brake on the carriage, and she was talking with this girlfriend of hers, this babysitter, I think this girl. And something happened to the carriage, and the carriage went into the pond, went into Cushing Pond, and sank. And the girl that she was talking with was a Girl Scout. She was only 11 years old. And the baby in the carriage was about 2.5 at the time. And the carriage went down into the drink, and the Girl Scout went into the pond trying to find the carriage. And as the story goes, something lifted the carriage up out of the pond.
Wow.
And the babysitter was able to grab the baby and bring him to shore. And she said that something, it wasn't floating, something lifted it up. And so they brought the baby, who was a boy, and they brought him into somebody's house there. He was soaked, and they dried him off, and tried to find some clothes for him so they could bring him back to his mother. His mother did not know anything about this. She was working at a local store right up there. And I don't remember that, but the guy in the carriage was me.
No kidding.
Me.
So you were a believer before you knew you were a believer.
I didn't, and I researched this story today.
Wow.
Because this is only hearsay to me from my mother and from my sisters that we were told. But I researched it today online.
Wow.
And it did happen. And
I'm not surprised you wouldn't remember it at that age, but that's crazy.
The only reason I remember it is because there was a cartoon that was in the Brockton Enterprise that showed these people bringing this baby home in girls' clothing, by the way. We won't explain that. And bringing this little boy up to the front steps, and that was a cartoon. They were looking for good news. It was in the end of World War II. It was about a week before President Roosevelt passed away. It was April 6th, and I didn't know the date before today, but that was all given to me when I looked it up, because what you can do now with AI is they went through the records of the Brockton Enterprise, and there was a cartoon, and me in the swaddling clothes, not lying in a manger.
Wow.
So that's my Rockland stories that I have researched. We'll have to do this again, but this has been an interesting discussion. I thank you for inviting me to be on your show, and hopefully we can do some other things. I would really like to visit the GAR Hall to see if I can hear those drums again.
Well, I would love to have you come out to the hall, and
Thank you
this has
very
been
much,
great.
Matt.
You are an absolute wealth of knowledge, and if the budget gets approved for season 2, we'll bring you back for sure, because I'd love to dive further into what the state has to offer in the South Shore, essentially. So we appreciate you being here as always, and
Thank you.
you guys, we're going to be investigating a very special location in Rockland that has a lot of history to it. I'm not going to tell you, you're just going to have to tune in and see it, but hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you for all of this, and we look forward to seeing you soon.